You have more sympathy for the criminal than the victim, don't you? Do you know Micah Smith?
Michael Smith, Senator?
Micah, M-I-C-H. I bet the victims of Micah Smith remember Micah Smith, if you don't. Mr. Smith molested a 4-year-old girl, didn't he? Mr. Smith molested a 9-year-old girl, didn't he? This is what you said at Mr. Micah's sentencing. These are your words, not mine. What I can say, you said, is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him. A lot of good in him. Having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children, causing extreme damage.
According to public records, you said people are complicated. I've frankly been offered very little insight as to how or why this happened. What I can say is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him, having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children, causing extreme damage. What was the lot of good?
What's up, America? Welcome back to Uncensored Right, the home of truth they can't silence, the voice of the people Washington pretends not to hear. Tonight we're diving straight into a political storm, a Senate hearing that shook the room, where Senator John Kennedy and Senator Lindsey Graham didn't just question a judge, they exposed something far bigger. You see, in politics, there's an old proverb: when justice bends too far in compassion for the guilty, it breaks faith with the innocent. So before we roll this out, I want you to sit back and relax. This is your zone. Uncensored Right, your voice, your truth, your platform. Grab whatever makes your evening complete, your coffee, your popcorn, your whiskey, maybe that favorite cigar or soda, because what you're about to watch will have you talking back to the screen. This isn't just another clip from DC, it's a raw moment where the mask came off. It's about power, accountability, and a question that cuts to the core of justice in America. Who does our system really protect, the victims or the criminals? Now let's get into it. Because tonight, Senator Kennedy and Lindsey Graham didn't come to play nice. They came to remind Washington that justice still means something. And before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so the truth spreads far beyond their walls. Because if we don't talk about it, they'll bury it.
You have more sympathy for the criminal than the victim, don't you?
Senator, I worked on behalf of victims of crime zealously as a prosecutor. As a judge, I listened carefully to understand impact on victims, and I have always take that into account.
Do you know Micah Smith?
Michael Smith, Senator?
Micah, M-I-C-H.
I don't believe I know a Micah Smith, Senator, no.
Okay. I bet the victims of Micah Smith remember Micah Smith, if you don't.
Senator, there was a defendant I sentenced named Michael Smith.
Mr. Smith molested a 4-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, he was convicted after trial of unlawful sexual contact under Maine law.
That's a nice way of putting it.
That was a charge, Senator.
Right. Mr. Smith molested a 9-year-old girl, didn't he?
Senator, again, he was convicted of unlawful sexual contact against 2 children. In that case, I did impose the sentence the state requested.
At oral argument, this is how Mr. Smith's conduct was described. Quote, you heard this testimony. All of the abuse is done in the same fashion. Smith would rub his fingers in a circular motion on the vagina of each child. And he did so repeatedly. Now, where I come from, we call that sexual abuse. You can pretty it up all you want to, Judge. This is what you said at Mr. Micah's sentencing. These are your words, not mine. What I can say, you said, is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him. A lot of good in him. Having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children, causing extreme damage. Did I read that correctly?
Senator, in that case, I imposed the sentence the state requested.
Did I read your quotation correctly?
Senator, that, I think, is a portion of what I said at sentencing. My focus was on...
But the words I read, are they correct?
That's what was reported in the paper, Senator. I have not seen a transcript of the sentencing.
I bet the victims remember, Judge. You might have forgotten. just like you forgot his name. But I bet the victims remember. And then you handed down a sentence. You gave Mr. Smith 12 years, but you suspended 6 of them, didn't you?
Senator, that was at the recommendation of the state because
But it was your ruling. Is that an accurate statement of your ruling?
Senator, I accepted the state's recommendation that 6 years should be suspended so that Mr. Smith would be required to participate in sex offender treatment.
I appreciate the lengthy explanation, but I think it's a pretty simple question. That was your sentence, right?
Yes, I imposed the sentence the state requested in that case.
Are you familiar with
According to public records, you said people are complicated. I've frankly been offered very little insight as to how or why this happened. What I can say is that this is a very tragic situation of a person who has a lot of good in him, having done a very reprehensible thing to 2 young children, causing extreme damage. What was the lot of good?
Senator, in that case, the bulk of the time at sentencing was spent describing the damage that the defendant had done and how reprehensible his conduct was.
You cut his sentence, you suspended half of the sentence. Is it your testimony that's what the prosecutors asked for?
Yes, Senator, I did just review their sentencing memo, and that is my recollection.
We'll check and see. If I'm wrong, I apologize. You presided over a case where a mother was charged with manslaughter, killing her 14-month-old baby by exposing him to fentanyl, enough in his system to kill 4 adults. Her house was being used as a fentanyl distribution center. There was enough fentanyl, the whole room was covered in fentanyl. You sentenced the mother to 4 years in prison because you concluded the mother acted with criminal negligence, but not recklessly. You don't think it's reckless to expose your child to fentanyl enough to kill 4 adults and to have the house the child lives in to be a distribution center for fentanyl, packaging and selling fentanyl?
Senator, the sentence I imposed in that case was 10 years. I reviewed a great volume of evidence, and what I concluded is that she had...
4 years in prison. Did you suspend it?
Senator, it was 10 years. Under Maine law, for those charges, the only way to impose any supervision conditions upon release is to suspend a period, and it's a required part of the Maine sentencing structure.
Could you have imposed more? What was the maximum sentence?
The maximum sentence for manslaughter, Senator, is 30, but it's 0 to 30, and criminal negligence, that was a case of criminal negligence. That's the least culpable type of manslaughter.
So if you said you ruled out reckless, would that have given you more sentencing authority?
Senator, that would be a more culpable type of manslaughter.
So you believe that it was not reckless for a mother to use the home the baby is in as a crack distribution center, exposing the child to 4 times enough fentanyl to kill an adult. 4 times to kill an adult.
Senator John Kennedy walked into that hearing like a man carrying the Constitution in one hand and truth in the other. He went straight for Judge Julia M. Lipez, reading her own words back to her. Words, she said, about a man convicted of abusing 2 children, a person with a lot of good in him. Now, I don't know about you, but where I come from, there's a saying, you don't call the wolf kind just because he didn't eat every sheep. Kennedy wasn't having it. He pushed her hard. He asked her point blank why she'd suspend half that man's sentence and still call him good. You could feel the tension. You could feel the truth, raw, uncomfortable, and necessary. And I'll tell you what I believe. Kennedy wasn't just fighting one judge. He was fighting a system that's grown too comfortable making excuses. Then came Senator Lindsey Graham, cool, sharp, and deliberate. If Kennedy brought the fire, Graham brought the scalpel. He questioned Judge Lipez about another case. A mother whose child died from fentanyl poisoning in a home being used as a drug hub. 10 years, and part of it suspended.
How is that not reckless?
And you know what? He's right. When a baby dies surrounded by fentanyl, that's not negligence, that's tragedy born of irresponsibility. Here's the thing, the law may be written in black and white, but justice is felt in red, white, and blue. And if judges forget that, our system becomes just paperwork with no pulse. Now, if you're nodding your head right now, if you feel like these senators spoke for you, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below, because your opinion matters. Washington might not want to hear you, but here, on Uncensored Right, your voice is the headline. As I watched that exchange, one truth hit me hard. We've got too many judges trying to show compassion to criminals, and not enough fighting for victims. Judge Lipez kept repeating the same line, I followed the state's recommendation. That's the political version of don't blame me. But justice isn't about passing the buck, it's about taking a stand. Like my granddad used to say, A judge who fears controversy more than corruption doesn't deserve the bench. That's why I believe Kennedy and Graham did what real leaders are supposed to do: draw a line and say, no more excuses. And I'm curious, what do you think? Did Judge Lopez fail those victims? Did our justice system lose its moral compass? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, because here, your words matter more than DC's spin. This wasn't just a Senate hearing. This was a reflection of America's struggle, the fight between compassion and accountability, between understanding criminals and standing up for the broken lives they leave behind. Senator Kennedy spoke from the heart. Senator Graham spoke from the law. Together, they spoke for the people. And that's why I created Uncensored Right, because politics isn't about left or right, it's about right or wrong. If Washington forgets the victims, then the people must remind them who they serve. As the old proverb says, when justice sleeps, tyranny awakens. So if you believe in truth, if you believe justice should protect the innocent, then like, share, and subscribe right now. Drop your opinion in the comments. Don't hold back. Because here, your voice isn't filtered, it's freed. I'm your host, Uncensored Right, and this platform belongs to you, the forgotten voice of the American people. Stay strong, stay aware, and remember, when the people speak, Washington listens, whether they like it or not. This is Uncensored Right, where your truth can't be silenced.